As we all know, tomorrow we have literally the best banner of all time. Choose Your Own Limited, which is something that has never ever happened before. And in my opinion, this is the best banner we have ever had because the flexibility that this has is literally unmatched. Now, it's also very important that we select properly. So what I'm going to be going into is how you guys should pick for your Choose Your Own Limited. As you can see, we got a tier list here from first pick, solid, if you have everything else. Maybe this is like if, you know, you have everything or you really like the hero and you don't want to listen to anything I have to say. This is where it's like acceptable to pick. And then never is where I basically would never pick it unless it's the only option you have. This is what we're going to be going through. I'm going to be explaining why I'm going to be picking these. And I'm not only going to select based off of, you know, people who have A5s and everything. I'm also going to go to people who have maybe just started, because depending on your stage in the game and depending on your roster as a whole, your decision's going to vary very wildly. So what we need to do first off is talk about new players. By new players, I mean players who don't have anything. If you don't have anything, you're not picking Gwen, you're not picking Falsha, you're not picking Lust, you're not picking Dahlia, you're not picking Reeve, you maybe pick a Nora. Kigiri's a good option. I think Wukong and Diao Chen are the only two options. So if you don't really have any limiteds in this game, Wukong, in my opinion, is the best option. The thing is, Diao Chen's going to be in first pick for everyone. I think Diao Chen is the most valuable if you don't have her. The thing is, early game, you're not really going to be gated by inspiration as hard because it's about boosting your DPS. And if you don't have any good DPS, Wukong is going to be the best. Kigiri is pretty much not even the same unit at A0 that he is at A3 or A5. If you cannot immediately get him to A3, Kigiri is not a good pick. Wukong is good at A0, he's good at A5, he's good at A3, he's good at A1. It doesn't matter what awakening he is, he's always going to do a ton of damage. If you're working on the guild bosses, like Guild Boss 1, he's going to be insane. If you're working on like Void Rift and all of those things, Wukong is going to be the best pick for you. Diao Chen still is very good, Kigiri is good, and Anora is good. But I would only pick Wukong. But that is, of course, if you are a newer player. Here, let me just add a row below, which is just going to be unranked. I can't spell. Unranked. We're going to move everyone down here again. And now we get into kind of the people that maybe are able to have, you know, a couple units. Let's say you've pulled a couple limiteds and maybe you have the accessibility to awaken some units with some unpolished soulstones. Now, what do the rankings look like? Well, obviously Wukong, insane unit. Kigiri, insane unit. Diao Chen. These are the three best limiteds in the game. Even at A0, most of these are pretty solid, but of course, they do kind of need their awakenings. Diao Chen needs the A1. Kigiri needs the A3. Wukong kind of needs the A5 to really meet their full potential. I would say Lust is a never. This is purely because I am incredibly confident that Lust will be coming back sometime this month, because we're getting the skins, we're getting all of that. I think it's highly likely she gets rerun. I would never pick Lust for this one. Gwendolyn, I think, is terrible, especially if you don't have everything. Gwendolyn is the worst pick you could pick. I think she's the worst limited, definitively. Falsha, I kind of want to put maybe, but I'm still, you know, I don't recommend you guys pick her. Same with Dahlia. Reeve is actually pretty solid, and then Anora is solid as well. If you don't have Wukong, Kigiri, or Diao Chen, and you're missing one of them, it doesn't matter which one. If you're missing one of them, you have to pick them. It is non-negotiable. Kigiri, Wukong, Diao Chen. Three of the best units in the entire game. Diao Chen is debatably the best support unit in the game, with 100% uptime on inspiration, has the best inspiration range out of any single unit in the game. She is required for Arena, she's required for Abyss. Anyone who says she isn't required is dumb. She is the most required unit in the game, in my opinion, as of right now. For later game content, if you don't have her A1, you're really gonna struggle. Now, beyond that point, we also have, obviously, the Nightmare ones. Kigiri at A3 and A5 is the best Abyss DPS in the game. Probably the best boss DPS in the game when it comes to specialized content. Stuff like codexes, stuff like arena, he's still usable. You know, things like that. Kigiri is really important, but once again, you need to have him A3. Now, if you have Wukong and you have Diao-Chan, I would still go for Kigiri, even if you can only secure his A0 copy, because he's so important, and you can build him up as you go. Even at A0, he is still quite a good unit. Does a lot of damage, especially event stages. I've been using him a lot. He is really, really, really good. Really slept on at A0, I would say, but I still do have to emphasize his awakenings are important. And then Wukong is probably the overall best single target DPS in the game. Debatably, it's kind of a hard thing to evaluate, but single target arena, if he's not A5, you cannot push Overlord. It's just how it is. If you don't have A5 Wukong, you literally cannot compete in single target arena. Going into Abyss, he's the second best DPS in the game. If you go into the codexes, he's insane. You know, he's really good in any single boss content. 2-tile range, usable in GVG. He's not as good as he was when he came out, but he is still quite useful. Wukong is very good as well. So, if you are missing a single one of these three, you have to pick them. Doesn't matter which one. Now, when it comes to picking them, I would say that if you're missing all three of them, I think that Wukong is probably the best, unless you have a lot of good DPS, in which case Diao-Chan becomes the best. It kind of depends on what your account has. I think Kigiri is the third best of these. If you were missing all of them, or if you were missing two of them, I think Kigiri is the least important. Personally, he has the highest peak, but once again, he requires the most investment, and Diao-Chan is the only one that's really required for things. So if you're struggling in things like Abyss, like Arena, like gear raids, Diao-Chan's the best pick. Try to get her to A1, but once again, Wukong is DPS, and if you are struggling with the DPS, Diao-Chan's going to get less use, so you should be going for Wukong. And then if you have both Diao-Chan and Wukong at a decent level, then I would go Kigiri, and you can kind of ignore everything else. Anora's good, Reeve is solid, and then these I would never pick. And then we get to the final one, which is, what do you get if you have everything? Well, let's say you have most of these units. Maybe you're missing Gwendolyn because she's only been around one time. Maybe you're missing Reeve because it's been a long time. Maybe you're missing Dahlia, right? That's how most people are going to be. Like, for example, with my account, if we go into this, you can see that I am missing Captain Reeve. I am missing Gwendolyn, of course, wherever she is. Those are the ones that I'm missing, but I'm still not going to pick them, because when it comes to having most of the limiteds, it still is Diao-Chan number 1, Wukong number 2, Kigiri number 3. Basically. Now, it does kind of differ depending on how many summons you have and how many awakenings you can get. Once again, if Diao-Chan is not on your account, she's the number 1 pick. There's nothing else you can do about it. Diao-Chan is the number 1 pick. She's required, you need her, doesn't matter what you want to pick. If you are later in the game, you have to go for Diao-Chan A1. It's just how it goes. Then Wukong. If you don't have Wukong, once again, pick him. If he's not A5, I think he's very valuable. Personally, I think his A5 is a bit more valuable than Kigiri, but obviously it kind of depends on your priorities. And then Kigiri. If he's not A5, and you already have Wukong A5, Diao-Chan A1, or maybe you don't really care about Wukong that much compared to Kigiri, go for Kigiri A3, go for Kigiri A5. If you go for the A3, you can unpolish to the A5 eventually, but that A3 is very valuable, and that A5 is even more valuable, so you really want to go for them. Then with Lust, once again, I think her banner soon. I think Lust is kind of a lot worse than she used to be. The thing is, the fact that Wukong and Kigiri exist, the fact that Arrogance exists, the fact that Twilight exists, I mean, hell, Salazar is better than a non-A5 Lust, right? Lust's heyday is far behind her. I think Lust, not only is she most likely coming this month, I think that she's just not as good as she used to be. I think she's in never ever pick Lust. Then I'm going to put Gwendolyn here. Gwendolyn is here purely for the people that have everything. And then I would put Dahlia next to her. I would put Falsha in never, which kind of sounds weird. Maybe, but either way. And then I would put Anora in solid, and I would put Reeve in if anything else. Anora is like, if you care about guild versus guild, or maybe you just want a very strong magic DPS, I think Anora is really good. But the only way I would ever pick Anora in solid is if Wukong is A5, Kigiri is A5, and Diao Chen is A1. Those are the requirements. You do not pick anything below this. Hell, I would say... Oh, shoot. My bad. Let me just put this up. I'm really bad with the tier list thing. Either way, I would say... This is what it looks like. This is what we're dealing with. This is how big the gap is. So, Diao Chen, Wukong, Kigiri are so important. If you don't have A5, you don't have A5 and A1, you have to pick them. It's non-negotiable. I don't care what you guys want. If you're going to listen to me at all, you have to pick those. Then I would say that we have the obviously big gap here. And I would say Anora, after that point, is very good. If you don't have her A3 or A5, both very good. Reeve, if you don't have him at all, I think would be more valuable than Anora Awakenings personally, so maybe you can put him here. Either way, Reeve is great, but he's definitely not as good as he used to be. And then I would say Gwendolyn is purely for the people that have Reeve, the people that have Anora and an Awakening they're happy with, and then they have A5 Wukong, A5 Kigiri, A1 Diao, then you can pick Gwendolyn or Dahlia. And then I would never pick Lust. I think she's actually the worst here because, once again, I think she's soon. And we just had a Falsha banner, and I don't think Falsha is good for anyone. I think she's better than people think, but she requires a lot of investment. And not only that, you really have to build the team around her. And building around Northerners just doesn't work. So this is what I would say is the tier list I would pick. Now, of course, we could, delete the gap just to make it a little bit more like this. But once again, there are hard requirements here. Wukong Kigiri, A5, Diao Chen A1, then you can consider other stuff. If you want to go for a new Reeve, go for a new Reeve. If you want to go for Anora Awakenings, go for Anora Awakenings. Or just Anora in the first place. If you want to go for Gwendolyn because you're a sicko and mentally ill, I'm kidding. But if you want to go for Gwendolyn because you're a sicko and maybe you want her for collection because she hasn't been around in over a year, go for her. Dahlia, once again, it's been over a year. I would say those are fine, and then I would never pick these two at the bottom. So hopefully this helps. I really do have to emphasize that Kigiri, Wukong, Diao are so important. Abyss is the most important content in the game because it is the most tier restricted, and it is the most difficult. It has gotten a lot easier since release, obviously. Over 150 to 200 people are clearing it consistently. I know this doesn't really tell the whole story, but we're earlier in the day, and there are a lot more people that need to do attacks on Abyss. A lot more people can beat it now, but you will find a constant, which is at least minimum A3 Kigiri and A5 Wukong. You're not going to find many other teams like that. Now, Moradin's also pretty good. He's not on this Choose Your Own Limited banner, so he's not in the conversation. But you get what I mean, right? There's a consistency here, which is Diao Chen A1, no matter what, and then at least A3 Kigiri, at least A5 Wukong, or Abyss. You go into something like Arena. Arena, if you go to the leaderboard and you look over here, there's maybe one arena where Diao Chen's not always used. But you want to know what's weird with that? Diao Chen is actually used on certain people's teams. Right there, Diao Chen. Diao Chen is still working on the one arena where she's not being used on every team, which is kind of crazy. And then you get into like gear raids. Like gear raid 3, Diao Chen is almost required. Honestly, Diao Chen's basically required over here. You can see we got Diao Chen, 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 we got Diao Chen. It's possible to do 22 without her. It's almost impossible to do 23 without her unless you're going to use Lady A, which obviously you can't get Lady A because you don't have Diao Chen. You know what I mean? It's kind of very like, if you don't have Wukong Kigiri and Diao Chen, your account is in a much worse spot. So that's why this banner is so valuable, because it allows you to round off whatever you're missing. So rant out of the way, that is what you have to do. Obviously, if you're very, very, very new, you're going to have a little bit of a different decision to make, where I think Wukong's actually a little bit more valuable. And then if you're missing one of them, you gotta pick the one that you're missing. You could always unpolish the outstanding one, but you can't unpolish the hero you don't have. And then after a certain point, you gotta round out that top 3. They're 3 of the best units in the game, non-negotiable, and you gotta go with them. So with that being said, I am personally going for Gigiri right here. As you can see, I have him A1. My idea is I'm going to try to at least get him to A3, and then I have 2 unpolished for his A5. Then I'll be able to push 60k Abyss. I'll be able to push single target arena a little bit with the Watcher team. I'll be able to, you know, actually play the game at a higher standard purely because I got a weird my Kigiri awakened, and that's just what I need. So obviously it depends on every account. If you have any questions, ask in the comments. I'm sure people will be able to help, and I hope this helps you guys in general. With that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. I do appreciate it. I'll see you all in the next one. Destined signing out.